All right, here we go.
All right, you got it all figured out? Got the technology
I
figured
got
out?
it all figured out. Of
Look at
course.
you, like we're in the Harlem Chocolate Factory hat, so you're like all like.
You know what I'm saying? The
I
hair
forgot.
salons are not open.
I forgot
So,
my Tomrick hat today, so I'm wearing like a Ritz-Carlton hat from I think like 2002 or something. It looks like this thing has seen way better days.
but that's the whole fad now. So that's the
Is it
that's the point of it all. Yeah.
the Philly kid to me? That's the John.
No. Ew.
I don't know what that
Come with
means.
Me neither. I don't think people from Philly know what it means, but I know
I
a
don't
lot
know.
of people from Philly, so I can say that.
Yeah, me too. How you doing, Jess?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Well, these are not connecting, so you can hear me pretty okay. So
I
here
can
we
hear
go.
you. So cool.
All right, here we go.
I was wondering, like
I'm
they,
doing
they
good.
were like the biggest wires ever, but those are your earrings. I was like,
No,
wow, those
yeah,
are.
these are my earrings. These are my nice.
Yeah, see, I haven't like figured out how to buy fancy earbuds yet. I still have wires.
Those things always get trapped in something. You see, I have the earrings on. I can't look cute, so it winds up being the whole thing.
Got it. So we talked. So most people know we spent a couple minutes like doing a pre-interview the day before, where we just kind of make sure the technology works. And you were in the midst of like Father's Day hell when I caught you yesterday.
Crazy.
Like you were like
It was crazy.
It was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, I think, is what you were talking about.
It was next level. I think this year, which is it's always sad, right? Like every year, for Father's Day, we don't see the same kind of like level of appreciation that we get like on Mother's Day, right? But
Right.
this year, people were like, nah, let me let Dad, I know I love him, you know. So I don't know. So this was, it was good because we've had days where it's like, all right, we'll come up with a Father's Day set, and we don't see the same traction. But this year it was pretty cool. And then now with shipping and doing everything online, I actually get to read everyone's notes, not in like like I'm a creep and I'm like reading through your personal information, but mostly because I hadn't figured out how to print the notes and I was
Right.
handwriting most of them.
That's nice.
Yeah. So, just reading like, a lot of people caring about Dad, Granddad, and stuff. So that was nice.
Yeah, they got out of having to stand in the backyard and like stand next to a 600-degree grill, right? They could just sit in a box of chocolate.
Exactly. It seemed like some people got some nice little gifts this year.
Well, that's cool. So I'm trying to think. So we were talking yesterday too that we met for the first time 5 or 6 years ago, I think. You were up here looking at some chocolate handling equipment because Harlem Chocolate Factory was about to happen.
Exactly. I think I came up to Tomrick before I started. I was a part of this business plan competition. So that's how it really.
That was a beautiful segue. Like that was like how that segue is supposed to work. So
right,
Jess, where did the Harlem Chocolate Factory come from?
Right. No, I was in this business plan competition, and I had this idea for, taking this like hobby that I had done on the side. I had tried to start a chocolate company in college. I made these really, really, really beautiful bonbons, and I used to make them and take them to all of these different shows across Atlanta when I was going to school. I went to Spaulding. I went everywhere, and when I was like giving out these top of the line like bonbons, I was like getting imported French lavender, grinding chilies myself, and just like really like top of the line everything. And somehow in my mind, what I thought was going to happen is that once people tasted them, they liked them so much that they'd buy them. But I hadn't figured out that business part where it's like, you only have a certain amount of money. So if you give everything away for free, no one's going to buy them, right? So when I was trying to start this, chocolate company, and the name of that chocolate company was Choco Soul, and our like claim to fame was these little chocolate afros that I used to do, like little chocolate afros in toffee, and I knew how big like getting the right mold and everything was during that time because it kind of like set your life up to be able to push out production. And I joined this business plan competition, and I was like trying to do market research on how much it costs to really like try to have some kind of like legitimate business. And I
Is this
found
like, what is this, like 2015, 2014?
this was 2015. Yeah, it was like I think I first called in like 2014, but I came up in like 2015.
Like, so, okay, but so this is your hobby, your fun job. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing during the day while you're
I
staying up?
was a graphic designer, like freelance graphic design all around, like you name it, I do it. You know what I'm saying? Just hustle, trying to make a way to find some type of way to do something, you know.
But you were back in New York by this point.
Yeah, I was in New York. I was, in Harlem. I was just exploring like what I would do. I think at the time I might have been working for this production and design company, like had a full contract there, and like I was working there full time or part time or some type of time. And I actually worked across the street from the Mass Brothers. And so every day I was going to work, and it was a really small business, and every day I was going to work, I was passing the Mass Brothers to go to work. And I was just like, why don't I just like explore the chocolate thing in a real way? And so that's how I found, like, I got into the business plan competition.
Right. And presumably you did okay in the business plan competition.
I won the grand prize. You know, like that's how I brought all that initial stuff. Like, just, we couldn't go sell me right out the door,
Right.
But we were able to do all the original molding, all that stuff. And
you, I mean, if memory serves me, you were from Harlem. You were born
in
New York, and so you wanted to put that business there. You were working in Brooklyn, which is like the hotbed of chocolate, right? I mean, like if anybody's going to open a chocolate business in New York, they're opening in Brooklyn right now, right?
Exactly. And so that was the thing. It was like, I'm working in Brooklyn. I'm passing this chocolate company every day. I actually, I went to the Mass Brothers one day. Really embarrassing story, right? So I was like, all right, like, I want to, work in this, business professionally. And I worked a few places professionally, but things just hadn't worked out, on the lower end, how much of a lower end paying job that is. And I got real life bills. And so I'm like, things weren't working out, but I'm like, I really need a mentor. So I go into the Mass Brothers one day. I'm like, all right, I've built up the confidence to say, I want to open my own chocolate company, and I would love it if one of you guys can mentor me, right? Like, that's what I'm practicing while I'm walking in.
On the subway every morning?
Every morning for 2 weeks. I was so scared. So then I get to the door, I push the door open, and I have this whole thing in me. I trip over the landing and fall on my face into the store. And I'm like, I'm Jessica, and I would just like to, boom, slap my face. And it was the best first impression that you could ever possibly make when you are trying to have somebody take you seriously. So I loved it. It was great. They gave me some really good advice. They were really nice. They were really kind about it. They weren't hiring at the time, but they were super cool and super nice throughout the whole process. And they was just like, do it. And I'm like, but do you think something like this could happen in Harlem? And it was just everybody's thing was you'll never know until you do it. And so I was like, all right.
Yeah, I mean, for being a couple guys too, like the Mass Brothers, I mean, that business really kind of recreated something, right? I mean, they were doing something that there weren't a lot of people doing. They did it differently, and they've gotten some flack in the last couple of years about some stuff, and whatever. I don't care. They started that Brooklyn resurgence in chocolate, and they created kind of that bean to bar artisan movement in this country. There's no looking back. I mean, and I think for them to say, go all in. Yeah. Right? I mean, that's an expression that
after seeing me slap my face directly on the floor of their shop, you got to.
Well, they were worried about you suing them. I've never
been able to tell whether or not they were just being nice or they were like, let's get this crazy ass woman.
So, but chocolate had always full disclosure, a lot of times I don't know a lot of the people that we talk to, but you and I have spent a bunch of time together because you've been up here 2 or 3 times, and you got stuck here. You got stuck here in the weather one time Just
Yes.
once or twice? I can't remember
I
anymore.
think I've gotten stuck there twice. I think I got stuck there twice. But I formed a really nice relationship with the hotel out there. They like they'll just,
Better than the relationship you have with the car rental place, but that's a whole other story for a little bit later. We'll save that story. We'll save that one. But so you like chocolate. You and your mom share this
yeah,
love of chocolate, right? I mean,
yeah, yeah.
and like I have a dry erase board, by the way, this year. Like, look, we're going like all in today. Like everybody's getting all the secrets. I have this dry erase board of like stuff that I want to talk about. Like,
Go ahead. Let's keep me on track.
yeah, like my wife told me I should start listening to like blogs, not blogs. What are those the things where you listen to people talk for an hour? Podcasts. So I've been listening to podcasts the last couple of days, right? And like trying to get like the mojo of how these things really work, as opposed to this like free flowing Brian-esque like this is cool thing. Like so I have notes now. Like but so you and your mom have this love of chocolate, but
yeah.
But there were a couple things along the way, and one of those things along the way was a book at the New York Public Library.
Yes. So I like, for me, throughout life, me and my mom would just go to different chocolate shows, right? Like we'd go, Solange Chocolat would come into town, and that was like our thing to go to every year. And we'd go every single year. I'd find, like little things to attach myself to, and just, something I want to go home and recreate. But the biggest book that I found, my thing was always taking books out the library, because, to try to recreate the recipe when you don't really have the resource, was that Ewald Nodder, and that book became like a little bit of my like Bible in terms of like guiding me on recipe development and like process. So meeting him was like probably the dopest thing that could have ever happened.
Yeah, like I got to watch that, which was like from where I sit was pretty cool. Like so, I've known Ewald for a really long time because I work for a Swiss company and all that jazz, and we teach classes here now, and I invited him to do the very first class, and because he's an important part of my life too, right? And the book is Ewald Nodder's Chocolate and Confections. Somebody's asking on the bottom, but it's Ewald Nodder's first book.
I can't read. Sorry.
Yeah.
Glasses off.
Yeah. Anyway, so all sorts of people are saying hi to you, by the way. They're saying it's cool that you're here.
That's my mom right there.
Hi, Jess's mom. You're awesome because Jess is awesome. And so I didn't know this story, right? And so you come up and you kind of tell me like you're super excited about it and you're coming up and but you're doing it anyway. And I'm like, cool, thanks, And so you're here.
The art of the chocolatier. The art of the chocolatier. That's what it is.
So
sorry.
You tell me this story, and you're like, does he have books to sell? And I'm like, no, he doesn't have books to sell. And I'm like, but I may have one, like, because I used to teach at a local community college, and I got books for free, right? So like when I would put it as a textbook, I would get a copy, and it didn't matter that I taught the course 6 times. I'd get a copy every year. So I've got like 3 of the things. So I'm like, here, and like I hand this to you, and you had this like emotion. Like it wasn't a look. It was like this thing, and you walked up and you told Ewald that story, and Ewald was incredibly gracious about it. And like, you're in tears. I'm in the back of the room in tears. Like my assistant's washing dishes, and and Ewald signed your book, and like getting to be a part of that story is pretty cool. You know what I mean?
And it was to me, it was just that moment, because I think even for myself, it's part of it that I kind of like glossed over. Culinary school, that I have the desires to do those things, but I never got the chance in a time where I was like really, really, really super, super, super doubting myself. Just even like little words of encouragement within the book was like it was dope to be able to relate to how my mind was thinking about creating certain desserts, right? Like that I wasn't so far off from what I was like perceiving was like a standard. And then meeting him in that moment and seeing that he had the same graciousness and the same level of support was like like a full circle moment, like that I was able to, you know, take the time and participate in the class and get that level of support in terms of in chocolate was super dope. And he's so like I just think he's dope. So it was great.
Yeah, I mean, somebody just commented, "Awald's great, so humble, talented, and an amazing teacher." And
Yeah,
you know, like he came up to, I spent like 2 days just like watching, you know, because he's so exacting, and he's so perfect in his pieces and the way that he works, you know, and he doesn't let stupid stuff phase him, right? Like he does what he does, and I think that's pretty cool, you know, from somebody that is known throughout the world and all this other stuff. And you know, when I asked him to come here, it's like, of course I'll come there, Brian, because I've known you and you're asking me, you know. Like, well, do you want to worry about your getting paid? Yeah, I mean, I want to get paid, but that wasn't his John.
And it,
you know?
and it translates, you know what I'm saying? And it translates like the book had made, for me, transitioning from a hobbyist into a professional, it made it seem attainable, right? Like, and I think that's the biggest kind of like threshold, especially with something like chocolate and cooking in general, but then chocolate, because it's like this threshold where you feel like, okay, I don't have this level of accolade. I don't have this level of whatever kind of like certifying aspect. So I'll never be able to cross from what ideas I might have in my head to being at the level of elegance that you feel chocolate is at. And to see him like, you can have all those accolades and tomorrow let your kitchen be a different degree, and everything you've learned will go out the window because you have to rework. And it's like, you know, and that's the thing that I'm saying to myself, and I'm talking to people and I'm trying to like promote my business, and I'm saying like, yo, I have hands-on experience. I've been tempering over double boilers since I was 10. So like, not to say like, what are you going to teach me? I'm always open to learning. I'm always, I don't even think I've hit the cusp of what there is to learn, but I don't think I can be discounted because my paperwork don't look like yours. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's what I gathered from his book, which made that such a powerful moment to get that support, because that support isn't always there.
Yeah, I mean, I think that gets a little into the conversation we started to have a little bit yesterday, right? I mean, you know, let's call it like we see it. I mean, you don't look like a normal chocolatier in America for the most part. You know,
I look better.
You do. I mean, right? You definitely look better than me.
Like that highlight, right?
No, but I mean, to the New York Chocolate Show. Is that a fair way of putting it? I mean,
I mean, to me, it's one of those tone deaf moments. And if my mom is still here, she'll be able to attest to it. It's like one of these moments that's extraordinarily tone deaf, and we run into this all the time in chocolate. Like, right, like we can call it how it is. Like, I have this company. There are, I mean, you can count the amount of Black chocolatiers that there are, and then especially those that are in ownership position, that number goes even lower. And there's so many, if not overtly in your face discriminatory things that happen. There are things that are just extraordinarily tone deaf. And there was this time when I was a kid, we were going to the chocolate show, and we walked in, and me and my mom is like a chocolate snob. She'll tell you right here and that she's not, you know, that was like the biggest thing with her and chocolate. If you're gonna do chocolate, you have to do it well. So like, let's go find what the best chocolate is. You're going to play like, and this is me as a kid, you know, like if
Right.
you're going to play with it, you're going to have your fun. You're going to be making good chocolate because I'm not going to taste anything that's nasty. And so it became one of these things.
No
Like,
pressure there, by the way, Jess.
no pressure there, right? Like, no.
So when she walks in, like the stuff that's second rate goes under the counter and like
Oh
nothing.
yeah. She'll get mad. Like, why are you even giving me the broken pieces? Like, I'm like, listen, she needs finished, high quality. So, you know, we walked into the chocolate show, and it's very rare to see people of color at the chocolate show in general. And we walked in one time, and I mean, every single black person was dressed as a butler with white gloves and like jackets and everything. And it was this moment where then people were like coming up to us and coming up to my mom and asking her to do things for them. And it's like, my mother, let me tell you, my mother's fabulous. Like, I'm not even a drop in the bucket. Me, a hat, some regular pants and some sneakers, and I'm ready to go. My mother is like absolutely fabulous. So if you can imagine her walking around with her bags, she's dropping a significant amount of money on chocolate during this show. She's not walking away. She's like, this is the only time I can get my Marys, you know, like get my Japanese chocolate that I don't have to pay the extra $200 in shipping. And imagine someone coming up to you and putting their trash in your bag. So it's like in the middle of that, or like, you know, like, and it was one of those moments that stuck with me as a kid. Just in terms of like, why does it look this way? Why does it have to look this way? And almost one of these things like, well, where are we? Like, I'm experiencing Japan. You know, you have little, and especially how they used to do it, it'd be like this kind of international carousel. You go around, you taste chocolates from Europe, you go through Italy, France, you know, you go all through Europe and tasting different little pieces. You go through Asia, you see a Chinese company, you see a Japanese company, you taste things with green tea, you taste things with Chinese 5-spice, you taste things, you know, Southeast Asian, you find stuff with turmeric and everything, and you taste all those things, but nothing that was uniquely African or African American. And it's just like, okay, that to me was always like, why is that viewpoint missing from the industry? And it became like what I built my business on was this idea of infusing my culture and the culture of Harlem into chocolates. And that's what I built my entire business around. Right?
I think the first time in like 10 weeks, I don't know that I have anything to say. Like, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I mean, like, you know, I think I, like a lot of Americans, have had to like look at myself in the mirror recently, right? I really have had to, you know, and I've always liked to kind of consider myself, you know, not a privileged guy, you know, like working parents, and I grew up in a working neighborhood in Philadelphia, and like they you know, they scrimped and saved to put me through school and put themselves in business, and so in my head, you know, the other kids at my prep school were the privileged kids, and I was not the privileged kid, right? And I think it's been a hard conversation for me over the last couple of weeks in this country, because like I don't want to be part of the problem, right? Like I don't want to be part of the problem, and I've never perceived myself as part of the problem, but we have a problem, right? Like somebody putting trash in your bag when you're just another guest at a chocolate show is a problem.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's a perception issue. Whatever we want to freaking call it, it's a problem, you know. And how do we get to that next step? You know, has to be the conversation, right? It's a conversation we need to have, you know. And that's what I mean. Like, I'm speechless, because like I just don't. I don't know that I know the answer. I like to think that I know the answer about everything, right? I mean, that you know me, like shit. I know that, and if I don't know that, I'll Google it, and I'm not going to tell you I'm going to Google it.
Yeah, but I'm gonna find out.
But I'm going to find out. Hold on, give me a minute. I'll figure that out. You know.
But I think that's the thing, right? Like, and especially, and why it's so poignant for me And chocolate, like when you really experience it and you really understand the nature of the industry, that everywhere that chocolate is grown on this earth, there is a black or brown person that is cultivating that cacao bean.
Right.
That like it don't grow nowhere else,
Right.
you know. So then when you get on the other side and you start seeing how limited that the opportunity is to really move up and really profit from this very profitable industry, you start to see that something's out of whack and something needs to be addressed, right?
Right.
I like to say that my contribution here is to try to bring highlight attention. We get into things all the time where people say like we're the only black chocolatier on the earth, and I'm like, oh my God, stop saying that. Stop saying that. I have a lot of black chocolatiers that I look up to, that I've
Right.
always looked up to, that I want people to know and to understand. Anytime I find out about one, I'm trying to push and promote or whatever, like let people know about, because we don't do everything. I don't do everything. And it is not just me. There's not just a space for one person. And it's not just about like the idea of, okay, we're just going to tell people about this. It's literally about like, let's look at the industry itself. Let's look at how, cacao pricing is set. Let's look at how, people are treated on the ground. And, those are important things to address. And I think that any person, in this society or on this earth right now just has to look at themselves and see where they fit in. Right? Like, are you a part of the problem? Are you not? And if you're not, like, what are you doing to help the people who, help in whatever way?
I think that's the difference, right? I mean, I think differentiating between being part of the problem and being part of the solution, right? And because you're not part of the problem doesn't mean you're part of the solution.
Exactly.
And, and that, I think in the bigger picture, right, that's not just a race conversation, right? Yeah. I mean, that's how are we approaching our life? Like, we've now totally wandered off the chocolate place, but
right.
Like,
no, but it becomes a thing. Like, let me tell you right here, right now, it becomes a thing because we have people come into the shop, or I'm somewhere. We've been at chocolate shows and people have run their fingers through our hair without our permission. People have asked us if we have weed in our chocolate. People have literally told me that I'm not the owner of my business and asked me for the manager, when it's like, okay, or just right. Question the validity of what I'm saying when it comes to the chocolate. Like, no, you don't know that. And, and it's those little like kind of like microaggressions that add themselves to the business that make it difficult. Can you imagine? I mean, we've been places, and then even on the other part of that, we're women. My whole business is women. Oh, there's chocolate making chocolate. Why don't you give us some of that chocolate? I've been at trade shows and we've been harassed. Like, we had security called on us when it's time for us to move out. Like, they're not separate. There's not a single person that's black on this earth that's separate from any of this stuff at all. And so it's like, it's not, the idea of separation is like, well, who does that benefit? Like it's gross. It's disgusting. Women around, like, the thing is that oppression leads to oppression everywhere, right? Like, even for someone who grew up in a different class, like, there are things that you're going to face. Everyone is facing it. Let's address it. So no one has to face it, right? Like, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, full disclosure, you and I talked a little bit, and I think that it's an uncomfortable conversation. It's got to be uncomfortable to express stories that you're talking about, but that doesn't mean they're not real, right? Yeah. Like those things are real. Those are real experiences by a real person, and that makes them important. That it makes them just as important as the opportunity to shake hands and give Ewald Matter a hug, right? From where your company comes from and where your company's going, right? I mean, it doesn't make me happy to hear the story, but that doesn't mean that we don't, or people that are listening, but that doesn't mean that they don't need or shouldn't hear the story.
Yeah.
Right. And I think the more that I'm aware of those stories, the more that I hear those stories, the more I'm aware of them. Right. And that helps me to, swing from being acquiescent to being solution oriented.
Yeah.
Right. Where, oh, well, that wasn't me that did that to Jessica, therefore it's not real.
Yeah.
Right. As opposed to, well, that's a really awful story. Like, what are we doing so it doesn't happen again? Whether that's with my child or with people on the street, or not allowing things like that to persist in our culture. Hey, let's lighten things up a little bit. Is that all right? Can we lighten them up?
Yeah, listen, it's light. Listen, I'm out here. I've got good skin.
I know you do. Like yesterday, like Jess, like there was a hairnet.
This is the first time. This is what we call in my community. This is what I took me a good bath, and I'm really feeling myself in this moment. So, this is the first time since quarantine that I've actually opened my makeup bag. I had to like wipe dust off of it because my body hasn't seen more than a toothbrush since.
What is the best piece in the Harlem Chocolate Factory case right now?
Right now, Joe, I've had probably like 6 turtles in the last. So good. Like the caramel and it was one of those things. I'm totally annoyed with myself for making them because it was so much bigger than I had originally intended for them to go. And then it was like, oh, okay, this little production process that I thought would be like super, super easy to just, let me just slap this together real quick and, make it look pretty, put it in the case. And to now being in a situation where I'm like, all right, you said you want 100? Okay, why? Take 25? Hey, take it. Yes, the banana pudding thing as well. That the red velvet right now is like a whole thing for me. Because getting that, okay, we have this because she's trying to use the idea that I want a call to try to steal Smarties, which she would not ask me for. Let me wait till mom goes home to have to do this candy that I know I'm not gonna get ever.
How many square feet are you in right now?
What's the size of a closet? 2 by 4. No, we are, I think, at about like 600 square feet.
Both retail and production total?
Yeah. So basically, I myself and
how many are on the team right now? It's you and
right now it's me. Right now it's me.
Is that
COVID? Me and my co-founder, run the business together. I got with one of my friends. We went to college together, and she just had so much corporate event experience, and that was such a big part of the business, and it's such an opportunity for the business that corporate relations, because you can just back when I was just I was renting a table at a local commissary kitchen, and so I needed to know exactly what size order I was making before I went in, so I knew exactly how much storage I needed to really kind of plan out my my pricing. So but now we have our store. The storefront is about 150 square feet, and the other 500 square feet is our production space, which
Right. But you're making everything there. So if somebody just asked you, everything's there. You're not making
Everything's
stuff.
there. Everything is on site. We are using cream from upstate New York, butter. We try to keep it either in New York or in the like New England area. Just making sure things are as fresh as possible. It's tiny, tiny, tiny batches.
Decent number.
Yeah, I can uniquely remember almost losing my mind, but we did it.
Does the lavender still come from France?
You know what? That was the first piece to go. I have like animosity for the lavender bonbon now, just for myself. But it actually still does come from France though. It's just so good. It's
Yeah,
so
I can't. I had a roommate whose girlfriend wore nothing but lavender in college. So like
you
she
can't
was in
even
her she was in her room so much that like everything I owned smelled like lavender. So like I can't stand lavender, and so my wife has heard these stories for years. Like she like doesn't buy lavender or anything. So
yeah
like 3 weeks ago, we're out of hand soap at my house,
yeah
like everybody else, right? And so I go on Amazon and they have like they have hand soap, and so I order it. Right, it arrives. It's lavender.
lavender.
And right, and so my wife's like, "Ooh, you ordered lavender?" And I'm like, oh, "I didn't know I ordered lavender." But so I filled the soap dispensers up around the house, and like she comes downstairs a couple days later. She's like, "You know how you don't like lavender?" And I'm like, "Yeah." She goes, "You're totally right. That stuff sucks." So like lavender's like out at our house. So
Yeah.
we don't
I
do the
mean,
lavender
it's
thing.
just such a it's one that my mom really liked. Like she really likes like those kind of like floral flavors and stuff like that. And it just became a part of like that balance. It's also been like the litmus test for me on how to balance flavors, like because that can go from nice floral hint to soap in like
Oh yeah.
2.5 seconds.
Well,
And
I think that's my problem with it, right? It's like
yeah,
it's like rose water. Like people like
yeah,
sort of some of that Middle Eastern stuff. It just kind of
yeah,
reminds me of my grandmother, and it's just
yeah.
like it just doesn't work for me. Right?
Yeah. So we have, I always, that's been like my thing in terms of like flavor profiles is like how to really balance stuff out. So it's not overwhelming. Like I said, I've grown up eating chocolates from around the entire earth. And so I
Right.
know what it feels like to get punched in the mouth with a flavor, and it's not fun, which is
So
why,
what piece hasn't worked? So what piece did you think was the greatest thing ever? You put it
oh
in the
my
case
God.
and you sold none or
Oh my
one.
God. So this, no, I put it in the case and pulled it and was like, please throw that out. We're throwing out this entire batch. I don't care.
What was it?
I was making, it was my first rendition. I was trying to do this, like my bonbons, right? So I have one of the bonbons is, it's a cola caramel with potato chip. And my first original thought of it when I was trying to be overly complex for absolutely no reason.
Doesn't sound anything like you, Jess.
Yeah, right.
No, nothing like you at all.
It was overly complex for absolutely no reason. And I was doing this cola reduction, and I was getting this which would taste great if we weren't using a cola syrup that was derived specifically from cola nut. Like it was a very complex syrup on its own.
Right.
And so to reduce it, all that happened was the cola nut, which cola nut is extraordinarily bitter, and that flavor would just, I mean, when I say uppercut, up that had sugar in it a week ago. So like that was the flavor. And I remember like I spent so long like figuring out the recipe and doing it and getting it done. But once everything had come together, that was the flavor profile, and we had to throw it out. So we had some people taste it, And I'm like, all those were all the people that who I then were like, you can't taste anything else from me because I can't trust you because you ate that and you said it was good. And that was the most disgusting thing that has ever been made on this planet. And so,
Did mom like it?
no. She hated it too. Every person with a mouth hated it. And it was disgusting. I've had misses. I've had misses. You know.
We all have them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm really proud of my iced tea pas de fruit. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was like this feat of like science and like culinary stuff. Like, as I used powdered iced tea mix and I made pas de fruit with it. Hindsight being 2020, I don't know that it was a winner. Like, I thought it was cool. I mean, don't get me wrong, it was like super cool.
Yeah.
But it like, no. And then my Red Bull caramel, like, it was cool.
I used to work
Again,
for Red Bull. I used to work for Red Bull in college, so
but like
that, I'll be interested.
you could only eat one of them because it was like reduced Red Bull and caramel. Like it was the liquid. Like, so you had all this taurine. Like, you were gonna have a heart attack. Like, bad idea. It was just a bad idea. Like, so somebody just asked, you are using semi-tempering units now.
Yeah, we're all salmied out.
But you started Choco Visions and double boilers and
double
everything.
boilers. It was a lot of that. It was a lot of. I mean, my arms, I can knock. That's why it's like now I don't really want to argue with anybody because if this arm right here from the amount of stirring, I knock you out. So but yeah, we had like Choco Vision. I think like when we had called ourselves transitioning to like being able to handle larger orders. I think it was like a 10-pound machine.
Got it. So the question that just got scrolled was, tell us more about your shop and the flavor of Harlem.
So I think that with BM, that's a whole thing to outside. Our shop is really what we tried to create was like this idea that we were having a chocolate shop in the middle of a like brownstone parlor living room. So when you come in, it really looks like a living room that has a chocolate shop in it. And that was the goal of it, like really having this kind of like intimate, kind of like we're bringing you into our home kind of thing.
So for the New Yorkers of the crowd, where are you? So like where, like, you can here's the chance, like plug the address.
Right? Ooh, that whole part. So yeah, we're on 138th, we're between 138th and 139th in 7th Avenue. You can find us online at HarlemChocolateFactory.com.
Cool.
We are still trying to figure out how to maneuver with COVID and phase 1, phase 2, phase 85. I don't know what the phases are.
Is the city still in phase 1?
The city is still in phase 1, but they're supposed to be moving to phase 2, but
we're in phase 3.
Phase 3.
We're phase 3. We're like a week from phase 4, which means I don't know what it means. Like,
I actually don't know what any of that means. So we don't know. But there's certain precautions and stuff that we have to put in, and it's just a whole thing. So right now we're online.
Got it. Do you sell more milk or dark chocolate?
You know what? It depends on the time of year.
I'm a milk guy. I'll admit it. Like, everybody wants to be like, I'm a dark chocolate guy. I like dark chocolate. It's good for them. No, I'm a milk chocolate guy. Totally milk chocolate. I will always grab milk chocolate before I grab dark chocolate. Like, and I'm a chocolate snob, but
no. It's a thing. I was a milk chocolate girl, but now I find myself on the dark end.
All right. So here's the question. It's midnight. You've been working at the shop all day. You're headed home, right? And like you need to stop for a bottle of water. So you wander to the bodega down the street from your apartment. You grab the bottle of water. As you're headed to the bar, do you buy?
Ooh, like currently?
Yeah, like which one? Like
my go-to.
Yeah.
So okay, so I will just take it from what I steal from my kids during Halloween.
That's a better way of asking
Uh,
the question.
yeah. What chocolate bars do you steal from your kids during Halloween? Because you know you have to eat the candy with them because they can't just eat the candy. I'm gonna steal the Twix. I love caramel.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one. I'm a Kit Kat bar guy. Like, I'm totally like Kit Kat.
Yeah. Kit Kat is a thing, but like once you, I think bar, it was so good. I don't think I could go back after that. But I'm gonna steal a Twix any day. If you somewhere, oh my Twix went missing, I ate it. You know,
Yeah,
like
I'll
I'll
eat
put that
bad
50
turtles.
cents in your bar. Yeah,
Like, I'll eat bad turtles, like you know what I mean, like bad.
yeah.
Like, bad caramel is still better than like pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Like, I'm with you on that whole piece. Like,
Yeah.
so, all right. So we got your shop, HarlemChocolateFactory.com is the website.
Yep.
People can order online,
Yes,
and you'll
you
ship,
can.
and you'll ship anywhere. Cool.
Yep. Although UPS is doing any chocolate, whatever, and if everyone has the collective that we want to just go to UPS together and just like I don't know, stage something.
Finding a way to get a package kind of deal from shipping. Or can you order that? You can order that. So,
Uh-huh.
all right. But we can order through your website. In the meantime, though, curbside, people have a lot of shop.
Yeah, no, I mean we're shipping. We were curbside people. I don't know if we're physically communicating what that is. We had like all the signs up, like one person in the shop at a time, and then 8 people came in, and we were like, oh, okay, one at a time, one at a time. And New Yorkers just want to do what they want to do, so it's a little bit more difficult.
I've been watching this. I don't think it's just New Yorkers that want to do what they want to do. Everybody.
My son has issues, and my mother has COPD, so I have to be very careful.
Had to be scary, though, right? Like,
New York was insane. We fully closed down because it was bad. Like, I mean, you didn't know someone who didn't lose someone close.
Yeah.
So it was just like the movie, you know.
Cool.
I don't know if that's appropriate to say, but I'm like.
And it seems like a great place to end. Let's end on pandemic in New York, and everybody. Thanks, Jess. This has been an uplifting, fun 45 minutes. No, I mean, it is what it is, right? I mean,
This is so dope. I mean, because there's so many people who are interested. I mean, you're doing a great thing. And
thanks,
Tom Rick, you like, it is such a resource. Like, I don't think I would hope it's not underutilized. I would hope people would utilize it more. Like that.
No. I'm busy enough. Jessica. I'm busy enough.
Call him directly.
We opened our doors for visitors this week, right? Like, we haven't had anybody here in like 100 days, right? We had 4 demos this week. Like, it was just like, so we're being utilized.
As soon
Don't
as
worry about that.
everything is up, I'm gonna come just to hang out, walk through.
I got to come there. Next time I'm in New York, I'm coming. I want to meet Mom because, like, she sounds like my kind of woman.
She probably is.
No offense to my wife, of course, but like a chocolate snob, like.
Yeah.
And if she's better than you, I can't imagine. Like, we get along great. All right, so HarlemChocolateFactory.com, TomRickSystems.com. Tom Rick Systems on Instagram, Harlem Chocolate Factory on Instagram. I'm Brian Donaghy on Instagram. I don't really post a lot of stuff about chocolate, but I'm there. What else do I got? So next week, by the way, we're talking to Philip Ashley Ricks from Philip Ashley
Oh,
Chocolates.
you see? That's what I said. I love Philip Ashley. I love Philip Ashley.
So I hit his marketing guy was on earlier. So I hope we did okay. I hope he's still going to be on after watching this conversation. You never know.
Right?
I ordered a box of chocolate from him today. So hopefully that'll arrive before Friday.
You have to. I used to order from Philip Ashley before I started.
He's got like I hope I get sweet potato. I want to try the sweet potato and the key lime pie.
Key lime pie is like literally my favorite.
All right. So hey, Jess, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you. I hope I didn't do too bad.
No, you were great. It was good times.
No, I appreciate it.